You're watching Less Than Epic's coverage of the Overwatch League. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, my name is Kinky and welcome to Less Than Epic's Power Rankings heading into Stage 2 Week 4 of the Overwatch League. This past week was absolutely crazy. Everyone at Less Than Epic thought it was going to be a rather mild week because of the potential blowout matchups, like SEOUL and New York, who continued to actually walk over their competition and show what true powerhouses they actually are. But there were a lot of low-level teams that came out and started showing off why they are actually in the Overwatch League. Now we have to find out if this past week was truly a shifting of power or just an exception from another week. With that, let's find out where the LTE crew placed all 12 teams. Holding strong at number 12 yet again are the Shanghai Dragons. I really wish I could say these guys were not at the bottom of our list. We all want to see them succeed and grab their very first win, at least in Stage 2. The only glimmer of hope that I can offer to any Dragon fans out there is that they were able to take a map off of SEOUL. Other than that, they got 4-0'd against Boston. Their schedule doesn't get any easier either, as next week they play both Philly and New York. Dropping all the way down to number 11 are the Dallas Fuel. That's right folks, the Florida Mayhem are no longer number 11. This is solely because Florida was able to squeeze out a match against Dallas. Not only did Dallas drop both games this week, but XQC was released earlier this week as well. With the team seamlessly falling apart, it doesn't seem like the Fuel are going to be competitive for the remainder of Stage 2. Florida and Mayhem move up one spot this week to our number 10 position. It may not be a giant step for them this week, but you have to walk before you can run. It was great to see Florida bring their aim game this past week. They went to 5 rounds in both of their matches this past week, where they were nearly able to defeat Houston and did so against the before mentioned Dallas Fuel. Florida is definitely a team to watch this week. They play both of the LA teams this week and could come away with another victory. At number 9 we have the San Francisco Shock. I think I speak for the whole LTE crew when I say that we wish we could put this team higher on our list. They absolutely dominated the Dallas Fuel on Wednesday, but as the week progressed, we weren't 100% sure if it was because of the Shock being that much improved or if it was just Dallas's regression. Nevertheless, it was good to see a player other than Baby Bay go off to help carry their team to a victory. Rolling in at number 8, we have the Boston UPRISING. Boston had an up and down week. They easily won 4-0 over Shanghai, but were beaten badly by London. The London game just reassured everyone that Boston is just lost without the Mercy meta. We still feel like Boston is mechanically talented and have the pieces to be able to be a contender, but they need to find a way to make their dive comp work if they want to squeak into the playoffs by the end of Stage 4. In at number 7, we have the LA Gladiators. Talk about an exciting week for the hometown favorites. If you had told me last week that the Gladiators were going to beat the Valiant 4-0 and then follow that up with an impressive 3-1 win over London, I would have laughed in your face, but you would have been right. The Gladiators played fantastically this past week and have really set themselves up to try and break into the playoffs by the time Season 1 has concluded. They play Houston and Florida this week, which both at this moment look like they're very winnable games. The LA Valiant take the number 6 spot yet again. They've been firmly stuck at this position since the start of Stage 2. They finally had a matchup against another top team in the league this week when they 4-0'd the Outlaws. But before that matchup, they lost 4-0 to the Gladiators. They don't have any marquee matchups this week as they play both Boston and Florida. Unless other teams in front of them have hard regressions this week, they'll likely stay in this spot until week 5 when they play Philly and New York. Holding on to the number 5 slot are the Houston Outlaws. If it were solely up to me, these guys would be behind the Valiant after this past week, but Nova was able to help keep them in the number 5 spot. Houston was destroyed by the Valiant this week and had to rely on a reverse sweep to take a one-map victory over the Florida Mayhem. The Outlaws have been grasping at straws since their loss to London earlier this stage. They play both the Gladiators and the Shock this week. They need to win both matchups if they want to stay in playoff contention. The Philadelphia Fusion claim our number 4 spot this week. The Fusion may have lost both of their games this week, but they were playing against arguably the two top teams in the league, in Seoul and New York. They struggled at points against Seoul, but later in the week they were able to push New York to their limits. They still hold on to the number 4 spot because of how well they were able to match up against very tough opponents. Just remember that these power rankings are not about just wins and losses. Rounding out our top 3, we have the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul won both of their matchups this week against Shanghai and Philly. They may have lost the map to Shanghai, but let's not forget they weren't playing many of their usual cast for that game and still walked away with a dominant performance. The win over Philly was much more impressive. In that matchup, Seoul was able to hold Philly pointless in 2 of the 4 maps. Seoul has 2 very tough matchups this week as they go against both London and New York. Hopefully this week the matches will be as good as they look on paper. In at number 2 again are the London Spitfire. The call between number 2 and number 3 this week was as close as it could get, but ultimately it was London who kept the number 2 position on our ranks. London avenged their loss to Boston this week with a dominant 4-0 victory. Then they fell flat on their faces in a demoralizing loss to the LA Gladiators. Despite this loss, we know that London is still a very good team and worthy of the number 2 spot. The loss to the Gladiators felt a lot like the loss they had to Boston, where they simply underestimated their opponents. London can cement their number 2 position this week if they are able to beat Seoul and then San Francisco. In continuing to dominate over the Overwatch League, the New York EXCELSIORs continue to hold the number 1 spot. As you can imagine, number 1 does not have a lot to gain in the coming weeks, but they do have a lot to lose. In the next 2 weeks, New York has only 1 game that could be considered a tough matchup for them. That game is against our number 3 ranked Seoul Dynasty, and that comes on this Wednesday. Even if New York loses to Seoul Dynasty, all they have to do is beat the Dragons, Valiant, and Fuel, and they'll still get the number 1 seed in the Stage 2 playoffs. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this video, make sure you come back next Tuesday for our power rankings heading into Stage 2 Week 5. And head over to our channel for more awesome Overwatch League content. As always, guys, take care, and we'll see you in the next one.
If you like our coverage of the Overwatch League, let us know by liking and subscribing. And if you didn't, let us know why in the comments below. Maybe we can make it better. Thanks for watching, everyone.